The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod and we are coming to you live from the Warner Center in Woodland Hills, California. This is the home for the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. It's also the home for Autism Live. We're thrilled to be here with you on this Wednesday morning. I love me some Wednesday. In just a few minutes, we have Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh. She's here with us for a segment that we call Ask Dr. Doreen, and she's going to be answering your questions live right here on the show. In our second hour today during Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy, I'm sad to report that our dear friend Nancy Allspot Jackson is feeling under the weather. She was ready and prepared to come this morning, but we've asked her to keep her contagion at home and to get better because we need her as we approach Denim and Diamonds. But we're going to soldier on without her, and we've got some great guests for you. How's this? We've got a race car driver and a banker. How's that for a pair? We're going to be joined by Jason Cherry from Jason Cherry Racing, and he's going to be talking about his mission as a sibling to provide help and support for other siblings and to raise awareness for autism. He's got a scholarship program that's going to knock your socks off. Thrilled about that. And the scholarships are just for siblings of kiddos who are on the autism spectrum, which is a lovely, lovely thing. And then we are also going to be joined by Mike Weiner from City National Bank. They're an amazing sponsor of Denim and Diamonds. And we're going to be talking to him about why their business finds it so important to sponsor things that help individuals and families who are on the autism spectrum. We love highlighting businesses who get it and give it. And that's what City National Bank does. So tune in for that in the second hour. But as I said, in this first hour, we're going to have Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh. And there are lots of different ways for you during both hours to interact with us and be a part of the conversation. Samantha's going to show you some of the different ways that you can connect with us, while I will remind you that our homepage is autism-live.com. So many things to do when you visit our homepage. One of the things that I want to direct you to is that if you click on that triangle that's on the computer screen, you could be watching the live show or the most recently recorded live show. Now, if you wanted to watch every episode that we've ever done, you can do that on many other platforms, which Samantha is showing you right now. But if you only want to look at the most recent 100 episodes, all you have to do is click on the little memo tab that's in the upper left-hand corner, and that will get you those 100 most freshest episodes that we have. But to the side of all that is something we call the live feature. It's a series of white boxes. If you'll put your cursor in the one that says your question, all you have to do is type and hit enter. You don't have to log in. You don't have to remember a username, a password, a special code, prove that you're not a robot, put in a credit card, none of that. It's immediate gratification in that you type, you hit enter, and it shows up here. It does take a couple of minutes, so if you have a question in a particular segment, send it early, and you and I can be having a conversation. But so much more important than that, you get to have a conversation with our experts that are on the show, and there's no better expert in the field of autism than Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh. And my friends, it is time for Ask Dr. Doreen.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh is the
Dr. Doreen is an expert in autism.
Doreen Granpeesheh.
Dr. Granpeesheh.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh is a visionary in the field of autism. Now you can ask her questions on Ask Dr. Doreen. Welcome to Ask Dr. Doreen. We're here with Dr. Doreen Grant-Bichet. As I said before, there is no greater expert in the field of autism than, no, I'm telling the truth. Good morning. Thrilled to have you here with us. Thrilled always that you give us this time because you are a world-renowned expert in the field of autism. You've been working in this field for more than 30 years. As shocking as that sounds, it's the truth. And you've worked with all kinds of individuals on the spectrum, from very young babies up through senior citizens. Have helped so many families to see the progress that we all want to get to. I always like to remind everybody that not only are you an expert, you're a visionary in this field. You see what's coming and you think ahead to help to prepare the industry and to help to prepare us. I don't know where we would have been if you had not seen what was happening with insurance. I honestly don't know where we would be.
Well, we're very lucky because along the way, we always have, I think, parents who make such a huge difference. As you know, we have one of those parents here, Bryce Myler, who's an incredible resource to us at CARD.
Absolutely.
Because of her insurance experience. And many parents, I mean, a lot of, and I really want to hear more about that scholarship as well, because it sounds so fantastic that you're mentioning.
Amazing young man. We'll have to have you meet him. We need to invite him to come to Denim and Diamonds. He's an amazing young man who's doing all kinds of things. We're talking about Jason Cherry from Jason Cherry Racing, race car driver.
That's amazing. That's incredible.
And he's got a sibling.
And he has a scholarship for siblings?
Yes. Isn't that amazing?
It is an incredible opportunity. What is it? There's just a monetary amount? Is that what it is? How amazing.
And so people can apply for, because I was just talking to autism parents last night, and it always comes up when you have other children.
Absolutely.
How do you make sure that you give enough to other children when you've got autism going on with one child?
That's right.
And that I know families that had savings they had a baby, had savings, put away for college, and then child was diagnosed with autism, and that money was supposed to be growing interest, and they said we have to use that money now to be able to get access to services, and when that comes along. When it's a financial thing and you're having to say, hey, this is money that we talked about using in 20 years, but you're using it now, that's hard. But think about when you're having to take away from other kids going to college,
That's just absolutely amazing.
Jason saw that need and said, hey, I want to do something so that the siblings don't feel like they lost out, and so the families don't feel like they're neurotypical
we neglected
kids.
the other child.
Exactly.
I think it's fabulous. What a great idea.
Isn't that a great idea?
Yes, absolutely.
We love him. We love his family. He's been very much a mover and a shaker.
That's
and
amazing.
Does a lot of different things, but this is one thing in particular that we just applaud him.
That's terrific. And I'm really happy to hear that you're also speaking with Mike Weiner.
Yes.
And I just want to say, of course, yes, City National Bank is lucky to have Mike Weiner. I met Mike, I don't know if you know this, but I met Mike in, I would say 91 or 2, maybe 92 or 3, something like that. Because he, at that time, their bank, he was with another bank, but their bank was below CARD's suite in Encino, the first CARD office, actually, And that's when I met him, and I have, he switched banks and I switched banks. All of CARD's business switched banks because of Mike. And he's a fantastic guy. I'm really glad you're interviewing him or talking to him. And he just goes, he does so much for us as a business, and just, cares about autism, even though he doesn't have a personal relationship with autism. But he's such a fantastic human being. He's just a wonderful human being. I'm really glad you're talking
Absolutely.
to him.
We're thrilled that he's coming. I think sometimes when we talk to folks and we say, what's your connection with autism? Sometimes when they don't have one, they feel like, oh, well, and I always have to remind them, no, that makes you a rock star. Because you're here. I know why I'm here.
Yeah.
You know, because I got a child, I didn't have a choice.
Right.
But for people who didn't have to have autism be their thing and
Right.
choose for it to, we
And they
all
choose to.
revere them.
Right, it's amazing. He's a great, terrific person. Is
Yeah.
he actually coming in?
He's
or?
actually, he's
Oh,
going to be
good.
here.
I'll get a chance to see him.
Hopefully, yes. He's a little bit later in the hour. So,
Got it.
but
Well, if I don't see him, please give him my best.
I will make sure that he knows that you said nice things about him behind his back.
Yes,
I always
thank
like
you
to
very
tell
much.
when people say nice things. But yes, we got this big show, and we have you here, and you're going to be answering questions. I also want to say too that starting tomorrow, we have a new segment that's going to be here on the show every Thursday, talking about awesome people who donate their time. Bonnie Yates is an awesome autism mom, and
Absolutely.
she and the people in her law firm that she's with now have decided to donate some time every Thursday to be with us for just a short segment where they'll answer one or two legal questions. So you guys can be writing in right now for legal questions
That's
for
terrific.
tomorrow. I'll be honest with you, we've already picked the questions for tomorrow, but you can write in for the following week. If you
That's
have a
fantastic.
legal question that needs, make sure that you tell us what part of the country you're in, if you're in the United States, or what other country you're in, so that we have some time to look up what the law is in your area, because it differs.
It does differ, and that's
greatly.
wonderful. How
Isn't that wonderful?
It's fantastic. I mean,
Fantastic.
gosh, free advice from Bonnie. That's incredible.
Well, and just like, and I was just going to say, in this format, we can't really use the word advice, right? But to be able to talk to someone and get information, which is what we're about to do with Dr. Granpeesheh, even someone of Dr. Granpeesheh's expertise cannot give individual specific advice.
Right.
And no one can, just like Bonnie and the other lawyers, when they're with us, they won't be able to give you they're not going to be able to give you advice on your case, but they'll be able to give you information.
Right.
And information is everything.
Right.
Absolutely
Right.
everything. It's
Wonderful.
because then you get to decision tree and figure, where do I go from here? What do I do
Absolutely.
from here?
Absolutely.
And a lot of times you're forced to pay to have that discussion.
Definitely.
And this will help you so that when you do get to the expert that you're going to pay to spend time with, you'll know what question to ask and where on the decision tree to go.
Perfect.
So we appreciate you, and we appreciate Bonnie
our
for being
pleasure.
our
It's my
experts
pleasure.
who are here with us and on call. So I want to start by getting to a question that has been written in a couple of weeks in a row.
Okay.
So they really want to know the answer to this. Hi, Dr. Doreen and Shannon. How do we get our teen to listen into dinner conversations? He interrupts when he wants to get his thought or question out, nothing to do with the topic. He says he's not interested in what we're talking about, and thank you for your amazing show.
It's
Thank
a
you.
pleasure. Thank you for writing in and being persistent.
Yes.
So there's a couple of different things I can think of right now for this. One is, I don't know if you've ever been to Forrest Gump restaurants, what are Bubba Gump
Bubba
restaurants?
Gump, yes.
And they have this sign that you put up that's like, I think it says stay or run, Forrest run, or have you been to one of the restaurants?
No, I can't say that
Or
I have.
Forrest stop, I think it is. And it has a thing in the middle of the table, and you put Forrest run when you want the server to come up to you. And it's a big green sign, and then you flip it to like stop when you don't need anything.
Okay.
So that's one way of doing this, is that you basically just have kind of a some sort of visual, whether, let's say, it could be a green sign that says your turn, and then a red sign on the back of it that says our turn. And you essentially, what you do is you just start, when you're having a conversation with your spouse or someone else at the table, you have the red sign up so that it's our turn, and you have your conversation, and as soon as you're finished, you turn it over, and now it's his turn. And he gets it very clearly that we have to take turns to, we can't interrupt each other. So that's one thing that will help the concept of him and then you can gradually fade the sign out, because initially you're putting the sign there just so that it is a clear signal. It's like a clear, what we call discriminative stimulus, SD, that will give him the understanding that he can and cannot speak or share his point of view at certain times. So taking turns, this is an easy way to teach that. However, having him actually listen to you is a different thing. Like we have a lot of our kids. A long time ago, I came to realize that part of the problem with autism, or one of the things about autism, is this whole idiosyncratic behavior that our kids have, which is they're so in their own world that they're not really interested in your world. They're just into their own world. So they kind of see things only from their own perspective, and it's very, very hard for them to see your side of things. So after you have the turn-taking thing under control, what I would do next is, and after you've kind of started to, once you've faded out the signs, and take a long time to fade out the sign, gradually making the sign smaller, 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 so that it's like a tiny thing, and maybe maintain that for a long period of time, just so it's clearer for him. If he interrupts again, make the sign bigger again, go back to the basics and start fading out again. Now, once you've gotten to that point, then the issue becomes, and during this process, separate from dinner time, someone should be working with your child and teaching them to listen to conversation and to be able to answer questions about conversation. I don't know his functioning level, so I don't know if it's that he's not interested in your subject. It could very well be. Or it could also be that he doesn't understand enough in your conversation that it becomes boring to him. Like an example would be if you were speaking a foreign language. When you go to another country, you might, like, I know French and I know German, but I'm not as fluent as a native. And I would sit there and, if people are speaking German, I'm trying very hard, and if they speak slowly, I get the whole thing. If they're very fast, then it's hard for me to follow sometimes, and I'll drop. Then I have to make contextual guesses, and it's exhausting, and after a while I'll just stop because I can't follow the conversation. So for him, it could be that he doesn't have interest in the subject, or it could be that he can't follow the conversation. So you have to determine which one it is. If it's too rapid for him, then you need to slow down. You need to work on things like vocabulary. You need to make sure he actually understands what's going on. And there's many lessons to do this. When we teach this, we start with very basic, 3 phrases, and ask the child, what did I say? Who was I talking about? Where did they go? We ask questions about the statements. Like, well, I'll start with something very basic, like Daddy went to work. And then I'll say, where did Daddy go? Who went to work? And I'll make sure they understand the WHs. This is a lesson called WH. Then we expand it to, let's say, 2 sentences, 3 sentences, a paragraph, etc. That activity actually also helps with listening comprehension and reading comprehension with some modifications. So that's a good activity anyway. And, once you get him to actually understand what you're saying, the other side of it is that he could have no interest in what you're talking about. Now, that is a larger problem to begin with, because when we generally have, most of the time, to be honest, most of us don't have interest in what other people are talking about unless we genuinely care about their position and perspective in life. So it becomes very important to teach him how to perspective take, how to take other people's perspectives. That then leads you into the whole arena of theory of mind lessons. And that is honestly a much larger process. It's, teaching the individual to look at things from your perspective is really a process that's multiple lessons. For that, I would recommend you go to Skills, which is skillsforautism.com, and there you go into the cognition curriculum and you'll see hundreds of lessons about just perspective taking. It is a bigger issue. Many years ago, I realized that children start even around 5 or 6. It becomes very evident if they are interested or not interested. Sometimes you see that children will have, it's interesting because they'll communicate. If it's a subject of interest, they'll have lengthier sentences, lengthier exchanges, all sorts of things about their language improves. And then if it's a subject of your interest, it's almost down to 0. Like, it's so low. And that's typical of, let's say, a 3-year-old or so, but by the time you hit 5, children learn to allow you to express yourself. It's part of taking turns, but it has also to do with listening to you because they want your approval. Or when kids do this, they're with each other at 5 and 6, they take turns at talking about stuff. They're genuinely into each other's stuff, and they're actually interested in hearing about their friends' stuff. And that's something that's pretty hard to teach with our kids. It's possible, it just takes a longer time.
I just am thinking about one of the biggest things that I saw change in Jem was, because there was a period of time when he would say to me, why don't other people like me? Why doesn't this person want to play with me? Why don't... and when he really got it, there was one thing that would happen with him early on when they were teaching him the lesson about workers and to look for a name tag. That was one of the things you do to identify whether somebody works at a store, which was all building up towards safety things. But look and see, are they wearing a uniform? Do they have a name tag? This identifies a worker. So he focused in on the name tag for whatever reason, and he would, whenever he would talk to somebody, he would then use their name in the sentence,
yeah.
right? And when he was little, they would go gazanga over that. They would be like, "Aren't you the cutest, sweetest thing?" And he got showered with all this positive attention.
It is very interesting. Yeah,
right
for a little
now,
guy.
we've had to tell him to dial back on it because it's kind of creepy. He's this older kid, and like the girls think he's coming on to him, and he gets a negative reaction. And
when
we've had
he
to talk
uses
about
their name.
Yeah, he'll go, "Thanks, Betty," and they're like, it's interesting now that
Right,
he's big.
right,
When he
right,
was
right.
little, it was everything. But anyway, so but we were having trouble with him with friends. And I think it was Dr. Sienna Greener-Wooten who one day said to him something about, because she was talking to him about something, and he said, "But I don't care about that." And she said, "But you care about them liking you."
Exactly.
And in order for them to like you, you have to act like you care.
Right.
You don't have to actually care.
Right.
But if you make eye contact, that
Right.
makes them think you care. And he was like, "It does?"
Yes.
All I have to do is point my face towards them and go, and make eye contact.
That's
and
right.
then they
That's
think I
right.
like them, and then they'll like me. And she
That's
said,
right.
"Yes." And he went, "Oh."
Yeah.
And it never occurred to me to say that to him.
Right.
It was just like this
Right.
moment of brilliance that she gave him. And as soon as he got that, he was like, "Oh, well, I can do that. If that's all it takes.
Right.
I can do, I don't have to actually care." Okay.
Yeah. And after a while, then, if you do actually attend, you start to care because you engage in their story.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's
But-
interesting.
But it was a nice place for him to jump in. There are times I love, even on the show, when we had a 14-year-old who was on the spectrum, who is an actor and getting ready to go do a Broadway Cares program. He was with us
Wonderful.
2 weeks ago. First individual with autism who's been chosen to do this. He's going to New York to do it. And I was sitting here talking with his dad, and he so reminds me of Jem in some ways. And at one point, it was clear that we were waxing on, and he was not. And I said, "Are we boring you?" And we got the typical autism response, which I love because they're honest. He was like, "Yeah." Right?
That's great.
Yes, you are boring me. Because it's the truth.
No, it is the truth, absolutely. And if you look at the way we interact with each other, there's a lot of stuff we say which isn't true.
Right. Right. Have you seen that movie, the History of Lying, or the Story of Lying?
Yeah.
And then you realize, oh, yeah, we lie all the time.
All the time.
But teaching them, I personally, I don't want to change the thing about when they admit that something is boring. But
Absolutely.
some people's feelings will be hurt.
Yeah, and so to go back to answering this question, I think you initially start by just signaling the exchanges, giving your child a signal for when it's okay to take turns. And then you work on understanding, and then you just, as Shannon said, over time, we learn to actually show interest. Whether that's fake, or usually when you fake it for a little while, you actually start to become interested as long as you can understand it. Because then you're listening to someone else's story. And also because then you can answer questions about the story and you're knowledgeable. It's the knowledge that matters. I might ask you, "How are you?" I'm not really interested in asking 500 people, "How are you?" but I do during the course of the day. Then if someone says something outside of the ordinary, then it's usually is something that I will remember, that is something that matters to me, that I'll tell someone else. And so that's kind of how we in society become reinforced to continue to interact and ask other people various things. That's social reinforcement.
All right, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to put together a series of questions that have to do with interactions and perspective taking in emergency situations having to do with police and those kinds of things. So stick with us. This is an important topic. We're going to be back with more Ask Dr. Doreen after these messages.
So we're going to do down dog next. So with down dog, there are several different ways that you can do it, and I want to show you first and then help you with yours so that we can work on what feels good for you, okay? All right, because there's no right way to do it. It's more about what your body likes, all right? So for me, what I'm going to do is start off with my hands at the top of my mat, my headlights. My fingers are aiming towards the top of my mat, and then I'm going to tuck my toes. And then my head is also going to drop, and I'm going to look between my toes. Okay. And my body should be, or hopefully, like an A shape.
Or V.
Or V, yes.
Upside down V.
Yep. And so if your quads are tight or your hamstrings are tight, you might need to bend your knees a little bit.
Then it's a U.
Or if your shoulders are a little strained or a little tight, remember to push in through your feet. But also sometimes what feels really good is going down on your forearms, like this. You can actually start out this way instead, it's a little easier. So your forearms rest on the floor. You still tuck your toes, and then you're still looking between your toes. But rather than being on your hands then, your weight's along your hands and your forearms. Okay? All right. So, now it's your turn. Okay. So, yep. You're gonna do on your hands? Okay, yep. So your fingers are facing the front of the mat. Or are you doing forearms? Forearms? Okay, there we go. Wow, you're very bendy. Very nice. And your gaze is right here between your toes. Excellent. Very nice, Jem. Wow. Awesome. Feet are a nice distance apart. How does that feel?
Okay.
Awesome. You want to come down? Excellent. Good.
We just were looking at that video, and I was talking about how much my son loves Sucho. We, here locally, we call that Suchoga instead of a yoga moment with Sucho. So it's Suchoga to us.
She's the best.
She is amazing, absolutely amazing, and she loves Minions. All right, I want to segue here to talk about, we've got a series of questions here. I want to start with this first one. I'm doing research for a collection of private schools in Washington, D.C., and I'm looking for information on curriculum and training for police officers dealing with special needs children, specifically autism. I was wondering if you could lead me to any resources where I could find this kind of training. And then we've got some other questions that having to do with the same thing, because I think a lot of people are crying for this. I just was watching a news segment over the weekend about a school where they're neurotypical kids in junior high, and they're teaching them phrases to say to the police, saying things like, police officer, am I free to go? Officer, am I free to go? Officer, why am I being stopped? Things to help them defuse a situation. I don't know about you, but I think it's really important that we do that kind of stuff on both sides.
Definitely.
I think it's all too easy to point and go, well, the police should, but, and we need training for the police, but we also need training for our kids.
Absolutely.
So we do know some resources between the two of us.
Yes, we do.
Do you want to start?
Well, a few years ago, I'm very passionate about teaching our first responders as a whole what autism is and what are some of the behaviors that accompany autism. Because I think if, as a first responder, if you don't know certain things, you're not gonna know how to respond to it.
Absolutely.
And for example, very important one would be, don't assume that if you call their name, they're going to respond. An individual with autism may be completely non-responsive to their name. So it's very important for you to not react if you call out their name and they don't respond. So it's very hard.
I feel like I should say the second question too, because I feel like you're already answering part of that. Dr. Doreen, thank you for your wisdom. Are there simple steps to teach or inform a neurotypical person on how to recognize special needs population and not jump to conclusions that they are odd or unpredictable behavior is dangerous? What if a special needs person is so stressed that listening to simple commands from a police officer is just not getting through? And they said, bless your heart for all you do, all the work
That's
you do.
wonderful. So yeah, so it's a tough thing, because what we're saying is that, to begin with, I can't even imagine what it's like to be a first responder, especially police these days, and to be able to react appropriately to each person's movements. I mean, these days when you see these videos of things going wrong, you often ask yourself, I wonder how I would have reacted, because being a police officer and having been in the in so many situations where I mean, I just saw a video the other day of someone who just went back to their car I think to get their license or something, and got a rifle and shot the police like 10 times. The police officer was dead right there. And they got back in their car and took off, So if you see that sort of thing as a police officer, you are going to be much more in a defensive position to begin with, and you're going to assume the worst. It's natural. Every human being would. So to begin with, I think it's really hard for police officers to determine what is my next step based on what is this person about to do. Now, when it comes to individuals with autism, it's even harder, because the individual with autism could, for example, be so freaked out by the sound of a siren or the light on the top of their car or anything, the sound in a megaphone type thing, where they could just take off from fear, and the police officer would know. The individual with autism might not understand things like put your hands up, or they just it would be complete. It's very hard. We did design a few first responder trainings. If you go to the Institute for Behavioral Training, ibehavioraltraining.com, you will be able to find the first responder trainings. And we've done that across the country. If I had time, Shannon, I would love to just make it a mission to make sure every police officer in the U.S. knows autism and goes through first responder training. It is very, very hard. Start there. That's one place. You have other resources as well.
Well, I was just going to bring up Emily Island. That Emily Island is an autism mom who saw in her community that there was the potential for this kind of thing.
Yes.
And her son was growing up in a community, and she said, this is important to me, and I don't want the police to mistake him. And she's an educator, and so she took it upon herself and put together a curriculum that you can either use with the first responders, where and it can be something that works on its own, or that somebody can come in to help teach it, or there is a part of the curriculum that works just with kiddos on the spectrum. So you can buy a video and a booklet that goes with it, so that you can watch the video with your kiddo and talk about the things that happen, or you can combine it together, and you can run the training, or you can have Emily and her son, who's an amazing speaker, we've had him on the show, come and do that. And they have even done some stuff together with IBT, if you want to be really comprehensive. But Emily's stuff is called Be Safe the Movie. So Be Safe the Movie.
That's wonderful.
And I'll tell you the other layer of it. You want to talk about Emily walking her walk. It was shot and edited by individuals who are on the spectrum, and the actors playing individuals who are on the spectrum are actors who are on the spectrum. And what I love about Be Safe the Movie, you'll see that I did an endorsement for it, because it shows you video-wise from everybody's perspective. It'll show you from the individual on the spectrum what they were doing in a moment.
Right.
But then it shows you from the perspective of the witness what they saw, and then it shows you from the perspective of the police, and then they take it all apart and go, so this is why you, and there's one in particular that I was like, oh my gosh, I never thought about this before. They show a kid going into a store and with his skateboard, and he buys a soda, and then he's down the sidewalk, and then at a store close by, another kid with a t-shirt on and a skateboard goes in and robs the store. We get to hear the APB going over the police report saying a kid with wearing a t-shirt with a skateboard, and we see the police pull over our kid and draw guns.
Right.
And in that moment of watching it, I was like, oh my gosh. And the police say, put your hands on your head. And, if we don't talk to our kids, what would our kids do? They see a gun pulled, they're going to run.
Yeah.
Which would have escalated it. So they tear the whole thing apart, and they have several different scenarios that they show. So that's Be Safe, the movie. And there's a whole curriculum.
That's fantastic.
And Emily loves to go places. So I think, you can't overdo this.
Good for you. Good for
Right?
Emily. That's fantastic.
Like you could do the IBT. I believe you could even ask the IBT folks if they want to come and do a training. I know for a
Absolutely,
while they
yes,
had
yes.
done that.
We do that. We do it annually across all card sites, and if we can get we do it for the fire department as well, because we're worried about the firemen who would be trying to rescue someone who's trying to run away, for example. So there's a lot of those types of things too. But yeah, we're happy to. If you have a connection to a police department or a fire department, we are happy to go in and do the training.
But
And
I
we're
think
everywhere, so it's possible for us now.
I think it's super important, like this private school who's reaching out, and this other person who's reaching out. I think it's super important for us all to take this upon ourselves.
Yes.
That Emily looked at it and said, this is, my son lives here, this police department doesn't know, it's my job.
Right.
And she made tools for you, so if you decide to make it your job, you have tools and you don't have to reinvent the wheel, but take it upon yourself. If every single parent said, divvied it up and said, all right, I'm taking the police department, another one said, I'm taking the fire department,
Right.
we could get this done.
Right. Absolutely.
But if you're waiting for some politician to go, oh no, here's what we're going to do, we're all going to be waiting a long time, and people are going to be hurt in the meantime. So don't wait. You're listening, you're the one. I just picked you. Don't you like that? Okay, we're going to take a short break, and then we're going to come back and talk a little bit about tutoring. We got a couple of different questions about tutoring, so stick with us. Parent to parent, you might be asking yourself, how on earth can I afford ABA therapy for my child? Well, the short answer is you can't. No one can. It's really expensive, and it's overwhelming to most families. But the story doesn't end there, fortunately. The first thing that I want you to think about is tapping insurance resources. So many insurance companies are paying for ABA therapy right now. So that's your first best bet. Make sure and see if your insurance company is providing benefits for ABA therapy, and check back often. Now, if you see that you don't have insurance right now for ABA, don't panic, there are still other resources. The next place to go is to your local support groups and ask them what local resources there are. That's a great place to ask for information, because often states and even counties have support for ABA. And then beyond that, you might consider applying for grants. There are many fabulous grants out there to help you to get support for your ABA therapy. But most important, it's absolutely essential that you get ABA services for your child. We know that that's essential for all of our children, and that you won't be able to do it on your own. So seek out those services and support groups that will help you to fund your ABA journey. It's really important to remember that all behaviors happen for a reason. Back to Ask Dr. Doreen. We're here with Dr. Doreen Grampiche, and she's answering your questions in real time. We had a couple of questions, very specific questions about tutoring. Somebody wrote and said, hello, Shannon. There was a woman on your program sometime this year. She runs an academic tutoring program. I don't remember her name or the name of her program. I believe she has 2 locations, both somewhere in the Valley. I didn't take down her information. I was thinking I didn't think I'd need it at the time. I do now with my second grader with ASD. Do you remember who I'm talking about? She goes on to say where she lives, which I'm not going to say where she lives because I'm going to say to her, you live where I live. And I keep that private. Then she says, I love your show. I've been watching for a few years now. I can't believe we haven't run into each other at the Walmart. We will now. Probably tomorrow. You know how that goes. And they said, thanks for all that we do, and they left their address. So the name of the person that you were asking about was Jennifer Lopata, and her business is Synergy Academics. Synergy Academics, and she does have 2 different locations, and she does, they have the ability to, if you, they have an app, and you can get the app and see if they can travel to you within reason. I think that they can do that. But somebody else wrote in and said, I'm looking for a geometry tutor in Irvine, Newport Beach area who's able to tutor a child with learning disability, difficulty with spatial relationships. So here's, because this is why I wanted to bring this up with you, is that this is the time of year when everybody, you've got whatever happening at school, you're settling into, we went through the first couple of weeks of school where it was mostly review, but now we're transitioning into the work period of time, and parents are starting to identify, oh no, I might be in trouble here, or my kid might be in trouble, and the school starts to say, oh, well, maybe we should change the setting. I've had several parents message me privately about, you know, school saying, oh, we don't think that they can do this. And to me, the reality is the school hasn't made enough accommodations.
Right.
But sometimes that takes a year to like get the school to adjust. And in the meantime, we need help. There was a parent last night that was a regular here on the show that was writing about homework time and what a battle it is. And all of us were writing in and saying, oh, sister, I feel you. You know, we have been there. And so I'd love to hear from you a little bit about the battle, about academics, and because I never know, should we get someone who is trained in ABA, because it feels like if we just get a tutor, then they don't know how to teach our kids. They know the content, but sometimes we get an ABA person and they don't know the content.
Right, that's the problem. So the issue, I think, you know, for us, and obviously I'd love to be able to do tutoring at CARD. We have about 3,000 therapists now, or maybe even more, but the problem is that most of our funding comes from insurance now, and they won't allow us to do academic tutoring. In other words, it's not classified as medical necessity.
If the parents paid for it privately, because we're paying for it privately.
Of course. But then the amount that you'd have to pay would be higher, because the cost of a trained ABA therapist, maintaining them at CARD, is actually a lot higher, because we also give them benefits, 401k, insurance, you name it. So really, it's always plus 30%, so, or 40% when it comes to a therapist. So I don't. What is the general?
I can
cost?
tell you the going rate for the superlative in here in Los Angeles for people who know the curriculum is $75 an hour.
Oh, geez.
So that's when there's superlative. I can think of, because last year when we needed to do some tutoring, we found somebody who's amazing who we've not been able to get on the show because she's way too busy.
Right. So we could provide it probably at any kind of academic tutoring, as long as we had people who had expertise in those areas. And our price would probably be about $40 an hour. So you're saying,
I think you'd have people lining up.
Okay. So, well, that's really good to know, because, you know, for us it would be, it would also perhaps give, see, one of the biggest challenges we have, Shannon, is that our therapists are always looking for more hours, and when our kids are in class, in school, you know, all of our therapists are free, right? They don't have any child to work with because the kids are in school. So it's very, very hard for us to keep our, and one of our recent analyses of our database showed that, it's kind of a research study that we're about to publish now, which basically showed that therapists in this field, ABA trained therapists, they will stay much, much, much longer, years and years longer, if they actually have at any given time 15 hours a week of work.
Right.
And what happens is when we hire our people, we want to give them 15 hours a week of work, but once the children hit age 3, 4, 5 and go to school, then it's very hard to, then the hours are like as good as these guys are, they have big blocks of time in their schedule, so it's very difficult. So, I would love to, and I will go back to operations today and talk about the possibility of doing academic tutoring, because I think that we obviously, with 3,000 therapists in every given office, there's going to be some expertise. I already know several of my folks who are very good. They majored in mathematics in school. They would be fantastic at teaching our kids various math issues and so on. There are others who are not just that, but like we could do music tutoring. I mean, we have so many incredible musicians here who are who can play various instruments incredibly. And once you know ABA, you know the language of autism, so it's easy to teach anything.
Yeah. Well, and we need people to teach math, that's for sure, because a lot of the math teachers, they just don't know how to make it sing for our kids.
Right, and we even at CARD went ahead in skills, as you know, in the academic curriculum, we went ahead and put in multiple lessons for the math portion as well. So, I mean, we do have math and English in skills, and if we were allowed to, we would definitely be teaching those.
Because the other thing that we need for sure is reading comprehension.
Yes, and that's a big area that we will all work on.
Yes.
But again, it's the problem for us becomes the restrictions that we have from funding.
Oh no, if I think it was abundantly clear to parents that this is strictly private pay.
Private pay.
The parent that was online last night would have, like.
And do you think that parents would be willing to, like, they expect most of what you now get tutoring is in-home, right?
No, most of it is drop-off.
It's drop-off.
It is drop-off. So if it happened at the center, I mean, I think you're going to have people who want both.
Places like Huntington.
But people are very used to the drop-off thing, because that's just how that works.
Right.
Because those people can't travel for the same reasons, that it's difficult to get therapists to go. It was difficult for those people. But for this person who is in Irvine, Newport Beach, is it possible that the office that might have somebody who could help her with the difficulty with spatial relationships in a tutor capacity?
It's possible. And we will, if you could send your information to Shannon, then what I will do is, we have several offices around there. So now we have Irvine and actually San Juan Capistrano and Garden Grove's relatively close. So, and I think we have others that I don't even know their names anymore of the locations. But what I'll do is I will contact the operations managers, or actually, you know what, tomorrow is Thursday. I talk to the liaisons for all the offices, and I'll ask them to post and see if there's anyone with expertise in geometry.
Okay, fabulous. And my email for anybody who wants to write to me is S as in Shannon .Penrod, PENROD @autism-live.com. You can always write to me sometimes on the live feature, it cuts you off after 1,000 characters. And if you want to, you can always write a long message to me at that email.
And it would be kind of helpful for me if some of our viewers who are listening right now, if they were to also write into you perhaps and say, yes, if we had, that this would be a service of interest to them. It's kind of, I need to take a poll a little bit before I produce a whole new service. I would love to hear.
I think we should put something on Facebook and see,
that's a great idea as well.
Maybe one of those chimp quizzes. I don't know what they are. We'll put a quiz. We'll work that out. I want to move to a question that came in on the live feature since we started. Hey, Shannon and Dr. Doreen, West Virginia mom here. One of my daughter's new programs in skills is opposites. She's struggling tremendously, and I'm having a difficult time getting her to understand what exactly I want. What is the most effective way to teach opposites? Thanks a bunch, and we love y'all, and we love you back.
Love you back. Opposites is a pretty easy program. So if she's struggling, then you gotta drop down to the basics. I'm not sure what material or what level you're at, but when you start opposites, you will start with, let me just go all the way back to the precursor lessons in my head. So you want to make sure that she's firm with attributes to begin with. So in other words, if I was to put three objects in front of her, and if I asked her to give me the one that is the biggest or big, would she be able to? Make sure the attributes are firm before you start teaching those attributes in opposite form. So go all the way back to that and use three-dimensional objects. That's also very important to identify small, big, etc. And once you have those, or long, short, things that are very basic opposites, and also always use the 3D, the three-dimensional objects, and then go to the very receptive form of opposites, which is, start with just the attributes, give me big, give me small, and then start to have the most drastic, so a very large cup and a very small cup, and say, if you're going to say, give me big, give me small, and then just say, what is the opposite of? I don't know exactly which SD you're on, which discriminative stimulus you're on right now for our viewers. And if you just go back a few steps and get the prerequisites tightened up, I guess. Or if you want, write more into Shannon about exactly what stage she gets stuck at, so I can guide you. But opposites is not really a program that should be too difficult. It's possible you've moved forward too fast.
I love it when I look at something, I go, oh yeah, no, that's hard. And you go, no, that's easy.
Yeah, well, some
I
programs are hard. Some programs are like you look at things like perspective taking programs are just very hard, or observational learning programs are hard, but opposites is not one of them. That's like a fun, easy, basic program.
Okay. I always think of all the different stimuli that got used with my child.
I know, good
because
Lord.
I would not have thought, because I know that this is a parent who's trying to do it on her own.
Right.
And I just want to say, when I think about the amount of different stimuli that got used, it's mind-boggling to me.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
when I think about when they taught opposites, all the different books, and that what you always say, every moment is a learning opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So if we were out and we were walking, pointing out opposites, giving every single opportunity, all the different books, we would go to the library and get books and open books and go, here's this and this. There are books on opposites that make it clear, but then you go to other books that aren't. So my thing is, are you using enough varied stimuli, and have you put enough opportunity into things? Because if I was on my own, that's what I would not have thought of. Okay, so moving on here, I want to, and thank you so much for writing. Lately, my son has been writing nonstop at home and at school. I've seen kiddos with autism do this and was pretty happy he didn't have it. He had no interest in writing, only in music. I've not heard of it being developed so late. He is 8. Any thoughts or research that you know of to look into managing it while it's still a new behavior?
So I'm going to need this parent to write back in, because I am not sure what they mean by writing nonstop. I haven't seen writing nonstop. I have seen air writing. I don't know if you're referring to writing in the air like this, or if the child is just writing. If it's just writing, I don't necessarily see it as a bad thing, as long as you can contain it to, you can transition to other activities. So perhaps I think I need this parent to elaborate a little bit more what they're concerned about and exactly define the behavior for me a little bit better.
Okay, so please write in if you are watching right now, and I'm going to keep an eye on the crawl to give us more information about that. But I'm going to move on to the next one. I have a son with Asperger's who's a senior in high school. He's very high functioning, although he does have trouble spitting out sentences. Not sure if that is because of autism or epilepsy meds. Anyway, he has struggled with his sexuality, about making inappropriate comments or jokes. Any help on how to deal? I have told him he can't do that, but because people tend to laugh out of uncomfortableness, he thinks that they think it's funny and can't differentiate between someone thinking it's funny to someone being uncomfortable. This has been really hard for his younger sister, who is also in high school, because people often come up to her and question her about her brother.
Yes.
A sticky one.
It is a sticky one, and I think so many times it's so much harder to teach these individual things when we haven't had the opportunity to teach them more basic things. Because it's one thing if I've had a child when they're very young and I can teach them all the different aspects of understanding how to, again, this goes to reading other people's perspectives, understanding other people's perspectives. So there's a short-term solution and there's a long-term solution, and we can briefly talk about both. The long-term solution is to go back, go to skills, looking in the cognition curriculum and teach him everything that's there, because the long-term solution is for him to learn how to read other people's perspectives. That's the long-term goal. If he was to look at things from someone else's perspective and saw it as ridiculous, like what this person is saying it's not cool, it's not something that they should be, it's embarrassing. If he could understand all of that, if he could actually read other people's laughter to understand they're laughing at him and not with him, he would probably stop. Because a lot of times with our kids with Asperger's, it's so important to them to understand, to gain friendship, to be popular. It is important to them, and they just don't realize that what they're doing is inappropriate. So the long-term goal is to teach him perspective taking. The short-term goal, take every scenario that you can think of or that the sibling sees and write them down and literally practice them with him, and sit down and explain to him. Again, I use comic strips when I do this, where you draw just a stick figure which is him and a stick figure which is the other person. And then you will write in the speech bubble what he said, and then you'll put a thought bubble of what this person thought, and then you'll say what they said, and then how does that make him feel. And you start going back and forth and describing three things, which is their thoughts, their speech, and their feelings, for him and for the other person, and you take turns. That's called comic strips. We have that in our skills curriculum as well. That helps our kids try to just visualize how other people are seeing the issue, how they're reacting to it, and it helps him understand that what he's saying is not necessarily funny, but it's making others feel uncomfortable. Other things you can do is you can simply practice with him and have two cards that one says funny and one says uncomfortable. And when he says something like that, hold up the one, and he might be shocked to learn how many things he does or says that make other people feel uncomfortable. You can teach him the short term, but it won't generalize, it won't apply to every new situation unless you teach him to how to take other people's perspective. That's the problem. And that's why it takes a very long time. Even if we are to teach, when we want to teach our kids how to take someone else's perspective, it takes ages, because we have to teach them numerous scenarios. And this stuff, just so you know, you would be fascinated if you got on skills and you went into the higher curriculum areas, so cognition, executive functioning, and social. You'll be amazed at how much of this stuff there is and how many different lessons. And you'll, as a parent, you'll be like, oh my gosh, that's him, I need to teach this, And instead of me giving you like a quick fix, which isn't really going to be permanent or long term, then you can approach each of the areas that affect this and result in this. And then in long term, he'll read other people better.
And it really is amazing how it works. It really is amazing. But
there's so many things, if you think about it, Shannon, that we naturally do. Like we read other people's facial expressions, their body language, their tone, and all of those things vary based on the setting that we're in. If it's one individual versus a group, we read their comments, we understand irony, we understand satire. There's so much that goes into communication. Emphasis, like I just did, so much, Yeah. There's so much that goes into everything we utter or everything we say, and it's very hard, and you have to take your time to teach it to our kids.
But I have to say, Jem and I had a conversation in the car on Monday night where he brought something up, and I said to him, I said, what's stunning to me is that I remember when he was in kindergarten, and he didn't know the days of the week, and nor did he have an idea. There was one little girl that they were lining up for kindergarten, and the teacher was doing something, and one of his classmates who was neurotypical said, Teacher, it's Thursday, and on Thursday we do this. And I stood there for a moment and I thought, oh, Jem doesn't know it's Thursday, and he doesn't know that Thursday we do something different than Tuesday. And is he ever going to be there? It just seemed like there were so many things that were going to be so overwhelming. But because he did those lessons and skills, all of them, he was talking to me, and he said he was talking about something that involved inference, and that he was putting three things together and saying, but that's inappropriate for this person, so we wouldn't talk about that. Like, it all comes together because it's so brilliantly done. And I just want to say that to people, like, I know it feels overwhelming when you look at all the lessons, but if you just work the lessons, they get there.
They get
does
there,
work.
and before you know it, you start to develop a sense of being able to see what's actually going on. Like,
yes, where the holes are.
Where the holes are. And it's like when you were telling the story earlier about how when Jem was little, he would call people by their name.
Yes.
And people thought it's cute. Okay.
Yeah.
And then you said now that he's a grown-up, it's not really a grown-up, but he looks like
a grown-up.
And he says that it's not. So, I was thinking, immediately I was thinking, oh, all he has to do is change it to ma'am or sir, and they'll be fine.
Oh, isn't that
it's an issue of respect that changes from a little child to a big child. That's what changes. Yeah. So it's being able to pick up those things real quickly becomes part of you, because those three areas of the curriculum, the advanced cognition stuff, just teaches you to think like our kids think, and because it just teaches you to solve problems a lot faster with these things. So,
absolutely.
This is a big issue. I completely get it, but get into the cognition curriculum on skills. You will enjoy it so much. It'll answer every question you possibly have.
I know we're out of time, but somebody wrote in and said, Shannon and Dr. Doreen, an idea for therapists while kids are in school, would love to have an undercover ABA observer data taker for high school, or even someone to discreetly prompt hand signals, text messages needed, and someone to lead, encourage, and club group activity. Thank you so much. And that came from my haircut
agree.
mama.
I totally agree.
That's something CART has done.
We do that for whenever our kids are funded by schools. We're in schools where we have a lot of incognito therapists in schools, the unknown shadows.
Well, the kid doesn't even know the shadow is there, so that they can take real data.
Right. So we've done that a lot. Unfortunately, more and more schools don't allow individuals in the schools, and more the funding from schools is cut out. So, but absolutely, when our CART parents request us to go to school, and if the school permits, we're in there for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. But you're right. It's a great thing to have. Okay, we didn't hear back from that other parent, but maybe we'll hear back from them later on in the week. Great. We're out of time, unfortunately, but we have other things that we need to move on to, and you have other things that you need to do, and
Always
I know that.
Fun being
we
here.
thank you so much for being here and giving us so much hope and information. We're going to take a short break, and then it's going to be time for Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. Nancy, unfortunately, won't be joining us today, but we are going to have Jason Cherry from Jason Cherry Racing with us, talking about scholarships for siblings of kiddos who are on the spectrum. And then we've got Mike Weiner, who's going to be with us from City National Bank. Going to be a great show, so don't go anywhere. Stick with us.
Hello, fellow activists. In our last segment, we talked about step number 2, educate yourself. Step number 3 is get support. Now, any journey can feel overwhelming if you feel like you're walking it alone. Well, you're far from alone, because with 1 in 50 kids diagnosed with autism today, there are a lot of us out there. Of course, there's always the issue of financial support. Now, there's a handful of organizations out there that offer financial support to families in need. ACT Today, or Autism Care and Treatment Today, is one of them. Visit our website at www.act-today.org to find out more about our grant process. I want to talk about a different kind of support today, emotional support. Now, you can get that from other travelers on this path. Some of the best advice I've ever received is from the moms of other kids with autism who went to school with Wyatt or were involved with programs with him. Then there are the pioneers. These are the families that have gone through this years ago And there was very little information out there. All of these people seemed to have the desire to pay it forward. Now, one of them, Lisa Ackerman, who is one of my mentors, started an organization called TACA, Talk About Curing Autism. She actually took the concept of mentors and support groups and made it available to everybody. You can go to their website, talkaboutcuringautism.org, to find out more. During the first and most difficult year after Wyatt's diagnosis, I wrote an email to close family and friends, letting them know what was going on and the challenges our family was facing and why we dropped out of sight. I was amazed at the outpouring of love and affection and all the help I received from that email. First, you have to be vulnerable. You can't be afraid to ask. Try this out. Could you cook me a meal? Are you going to the market? Can you pick me up a few things? Could your kids play with my kid and make them feel included? Or can you come over and clean my house? Well, maybe not that last one, except with your best friend. And maybe the best support of all is having someone that listens, and that doesn't cost a dime. So until next time, surround yourself with the loving kindness of others and keep the faith.
I'm starting to think he's smarter than me.
During clinic, everyone on Jack Riley's team meet at CARD headquarters. Here, parents, supervisors, and therapists go over any questions, concerns, and new skills to be taught.
I think we have.
You're getting along? Look how cozy he is with you guys now.
He's so
She's
cute.
gonna lean on her knee.
He's leaning on you. We were having him like give us fire truck and then having him say it afterwards, but now we're realizing he knows a lot, so now we can just hold up the picture and say,
What is it? Jessica is determining what items Jack Riley knows the labels for. Items he does not know are separated to be taught to him during a later therapy session.
This is Papa.
Is that right?
Papa.
Oh,
that's right.
Oh, you gotta call your dad.
Yo!
What is this? Oh, he doesn't know that one. What is it?
Table.
I didn't get to let her go on that
Oh my goodness.
That's good.
Woo!
That was good.
That was awesome.
Okay, last one, okay? And then you can play. What is it?
You're just making stuff up now.
Yay!
You did such a good job. That table came out perfect.
That was.
I couldn't find like a good table that looked like something
Papa,
he would
is this
know,
Papa?
so I was pretty surprised.
That-
That's Papa.
Oh, he said Papa
That's,
too.
that's,
That was awesome.
He said you sang all. There's a couple pictures of him, right?
Yeah.
That he got it.
Papa's gonna be happy.
I have a question.
Yes.
So, of course, we're getting big heads thinking he's doing so well, he's getting such a big vocabulary. I know we're not supposed to compare him to other kids, but because you guys work with other kids with autism, what are, and I know this isn't an easy answer, but easiest answer you can come up with.
Okay,
What are his strengths and weaknesses?
I would definitely say one of his biggest strengths is that he's able to learn and he learns very quickly. You know, I mean, he's at a good place right now where he's sort of like shooting up everything, you know what I mean? And
Excited.
yeah, and he's picking things up very quickly. You know, as far as what are his weaknesses, I think it's just the deficits that he has. It's just the delay in the language and the delay, you know what I mean? And it's all that stuff. But given that he is a fast learner, I think all that stuff is just coming out.
He's getting more words, but really they're, for the most part, like other than a table and things like that, they're more approximations. Or are we just recognizing the consistency more often now?
He's making a connection of words
Right.
to an
Right.
item or a person or something.
Right.
We can always work on the
I see
articulation.
him. I see recognition in him. That's.
You want hickory dickory dock? Say no. No. Okay. So you can see which one you want. Legos. You want trains? Trains? Do you want trains? Trains? Say trains. Okay. Here. Let's go play with the trains. We got these. What color is this? Red. Very good. You know your color.
There you go. That's what I was waiting for. Sit up and do it, though. Okay. Yeah. Let's do it like this. Choo-choo. That's all. Do it this way, though. You gotta sit up, though, and do it. Hey, bud. You gotta sit up and do it. You can't lie down or play. You can play still. Do you want to play? Do you want to play? Then you need to play right. Okay? Sit down and play. Go ahead. Go ahead, Jack. You can play still. Uh-oh. That's okay. Here, you have one more. Let's go. Hey, you gotta sit up though. Sit up and then you can play. Okay.
We see Jessica repeatedly redirect Jack Riley to sit up each time he attempts to lay down and play. The reason she does this is that laying down while playing is inappropriate, and if we don't teach appropriate play skills, he won't be able to socialize with other children. This teaches him how to play, and that tantruming or negative behavior won't get him what he wants.
Sit down. Oh, okay. Sit down though. Thanks. Hey, do this. Good job. Do this. Good job. Okay. Do you want Peekaboo Wild? Want Peekaboo Wild or Peekaboo Barn? Which one do you want? Which one do you want? Here, you pick. Which one? The Peekaboo Wild? Uh-oh. Oh, shoot. That's not it. Here. Do this. Good job. Do this. Yay! Good job. All the way though. Stand up. Like this. Yeah. Okay, try again. Ready? Do this. There it is. All right. Okay, let's have it face you. Who's that? That's Jack. Is that you? Yeah, that's you. Who's that? That's me. That's Jessica. Can you do this? Yeah. Good job. Can you do this? You do. Yeah. There you go. There's your tongue. I was messing around with him the other day with my forward-facing camera just to see him make funny faces to each other. He really imitated. So.
But with the camera, not with
with the camera, but not face to face. Yeah. Which is interesting. It's really interesting. Yeah. But like face to face, you can do like the gross motor NBI, where I do this and he claps, or I stand up and he'll do the same thing. But facial stuff, no. That's right.
Currently, in the United States, 1 in 88 children is affected by autism. 1 in 88 means something different when your child is the one. Recovery is possible. Hi, I'm Shannon Penrod, host of Autism Live, an online show about autism broadcast by CARD, the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. I'm also the mother of a child with autism, my beautiful son, Jem. You know our old joke, guess what?
Chicken butt.
Chicken butt. So we're gonna take the chickens. but things weren't always so easy. I remember when Jem was first diagnosed with autism. I used to lay awake at night in bed and pray for someone or something that could help us to get our child back. My prayers were answered by Dr. Doreen Grant-Pichet and the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. CARD treats autism and other related disorders using the principles of ABA, Applied Behavior Analysis, which is the only scientifically proven effective treatment for autism. It is also recommended by the American Academy of Pediatrics and the U.S. Surgeon General. About a year after we started treatment with CARD, we were able to see tremendous improvement, and we got our child back.
What grade are you in?
Second.
You are a smart cookie, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Do you like school?
Yeah.
Do you have any good friends?
Yeah, Oscar.
Oscar is your best friend?
Yeah.
And my child is just one of thousands to benefit from CARD ABA therapy. Across the nation and around the world, children are making amazing progress and being given the keys to unlock their full potential.
Recovery from autism is absolutely a possibility. We've been recovering children for over 20 years. It's just a matter of identifying the child's medical needs, understanding the child's sensory issues, and then teaching the child all of the skills they need in order to function normally.
We know there's hope for autism. Autism is treatable and recovery from autism is possible. To Autism Live and to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. As I mentioned earlier in the show, unfortunately, Miss Nancy is under the weather today, and she was willing to come in because she's a trooper, and I asked her not to because we all want to stay healthy. And I want her to rest. But she's bummed that she's missing our next guest because we have with us via Skype joining us Jason Cherry from Jason Cherry Racing. And for those of you who watch the show, we had talked with Jason a couple of years ago, and we're thrilled to welcome Jason back to talk about some very specific things. But just as we were getting started, and we were having a little bit of sound issues, so that's why I've got the phone, but you can see Jason there. Hi, Jason. And Jason was saying to me, I said, you know, we want to get you a little bit closer to the camera. And he was saying, you know, the last time you interviewed me, I had a lot of blonde hair, and that he does not at the moment. And Jason, tell us why you do not have your blonde hair at the moment.
Yeah, July 12th, I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. I just finished my 4th round of chemotherapy at Johns Hopkins. I have 1 more round of chemotherapy and then radiation that I have to go through. Just tripping through it, and I'll be done with it before I know it.
Well, we want to give you our very best wishes. Everybody's going to keep you in their prayers. You are an amazing young man, and I'm devastated to hear that you're going through this. But we're going to keep nothing but good thoughts, and you're doing really good right now, and we're thrilled that you're okay, and really honored that you would take the time to be with us while you're going through all the things that you're going through. And you were just saying during the break that, you know, this really has put some things into perspective for you and your family. And look, you know, I saw somebody last night who posted something online about, gee, I was having a really rough day today. And then I thought about all the things going on in the world, and I had the epiphany, boy, I've never had a really rough day. But I'm sure that you have had a couple of rough days, and that really has shed some light for you on some different things. I want you to talk a little bit about siblings of autism and what this is and why what your connection is to autism. Let's start there.
Absolutely. So to give a little bit of background on my connection with autism, I had an older brother, Matthew Cherry, that was adopted from Russia at age 3. We have a 5-year difference between us. So I was born into a family with autism. I've grown up with Matthew my whole life. He's high functioning on the autism spectrum, and he's impacted me in every way possible. And I think one thing that's very true about Matthew is that he served as a blessing in my life and a blessing in disguise, and he's put a lot of things into perspective for me. So as I'm going through this chemotherapy, it's I know that only good is distributing scholarships to siblings of those living on the autism spectrum. I recognize that the Autism Society is doing really great work helping those on the spectrum, and that they have their plates full. And so one thing that I wanted to do was begin to help all the Jason Cherries and Samantha Cherries, Samantha being my younger sister of the world, just to help all those siblings that are currently going through what I've already been through, to help them recognize that this is just going to turn into a huge blessing, and to help them, get on their way in life and pursue their dreams, which is why we're distributing $20,000 in scholarships this year and hope to raise much more money in future years to come.
Now, can I ask you? You're on speakerphone right now, right? Right, Jason? Is the phone there? Is it close enough that you could pick it up and we could have you not on speakerphone? Because we can hear you, but it's just a little bit soft. Is there any possibility that you could just turn and?
Absolutely. Probably because it was behind my back, so I can hold it right here, and maybe this is a little bit better.
Is that a little bit better, Samantha? I want to make sure people, because you're an inspirational guy. So wonderful that you're the best of autism siblings, and I love that you're speaking out and helping others to know that it's not the easiest thing being a sibling of somebody who's on the autism spectrum. Maybe it's not the hardest thing ever, but it certainly isn't the easiest thing. And you've turned this around and done something remarkable, $20,000 in scholarships. Let's talk a little bit about what does somebody have to do to be eligible for a scholarship?
They simply have to be a sibling. They can, we've had entries of those that are on the spectrum as well, higher functioning, and the scholarships are to be used for educational purposes. They can be used for summer camps, many different things. All that information can be accessed on our website, siblingsofautism.org. The deadline for this year's scholarships has already been reached. We have been sorting through all of the entries. We received about 80-something submissions, and we're choosing our winners right now. We're going to be announcing them in the next couple of days. But we'll absolutely be doing this next year, and hopefully we'll have more money than $20,000 to give away.
Absolutely amazing. And so you mentioned siblingsofautism.org, and you have been somebody who's been out there and trying to spread awareness and help to raise money. Talk to us a little bit about, because you're a race car driver and you've got Jason Cherry Racing. Talk a little bit about some of the things that you guys have been able to do to help raise awareness and funds.
Absolutely. Back in 2014, I partnered with the Autism Society of America while I was racing in the Pirelli World Challenge Series. And as I was traveling to these various venues all across North America, I was reaching out to Autism Society's local affiliates, and I was hosting children and the families of those impacted by autism at the racetrack. So they were a part of our team for the weekend. My car was branded with Autism Society logos and puzzle pieces to raise awareness. I had a custom painted helmet that was auctioned off to help raise funds, and everything that I was doing as I was going to these.
Oops, I think you just hung up. You muted it. Are they right there? We lost you for a second. He's got help and support there, which is always a good thing. Are you back with us? Say something. Nope, I still don't have you.
Are you able to hear me now?
Now I can hear you.
Oh, got it. So this is interesting. See, now we're going to be switching to phone for the rest of the Skype.
It's all right. It's all good because we want to hear you. And can I just say, too, that as much as I love the blonde hair, and I encourage people to go back and look at the blonde hair, this is a good look for you, Jason.
I appreciate it. It's the Mr. Clean look, as I've been told.
I'm sorry. I think it's a really good look. You got a good shaped head. Your mom rolled you on your head when you were a baby. Clearly,
Yeah,
that takes skill.
Fortunately, she didn't drop me too hard.
Clearly, your mom did something right to raise such a concerned young man who not only is seeking his passion and doing well at it, but helping others while he does it, even when he's having obstacles of his own. So,
Absolutely.
what do you think? What do you think your parents did right to have you be so wonderful?
Absolutely everything. I mean, they provided opportunity for me. My mother really helped me recognize that Matthew would turn into a blessing. That was something she always told me. She said that I may not understand it at the moment, but in years to come, I would understand why Matthew was placed into my life. And looking back at it, you know, all the things that I've been able to accomplish is all directly because of my experience growing up with Matthew.
And what advice would you give? I know that there are probably a lot of parents out there who have multiple children, and there are siblings who are watching as well. What advice would you give to them about what you've been able to, how you've been able to look at this that's helped you?
That's a difficult question. I mean, there's a lot of advice that I would give. I think the most important thing is just understanding that it will turn into a blessing. You know, even when things are getting difficult, it'll absolutely turn around. It's going to develop their children that are non-ASD. It's going to mold them into who they are, and they're going to accomplish really great things in years to come.
Okay, this is like we have gremlins in the studio today because now we have you on the phone and we lost your picture on Skype. So we're searching that up. But we got two great quotes from Jason here. Autism served as a blessing in disguise in my life. Through all of the challenges and hardships, I learned to find the humor in difficult times. What better lesson can there be? And another quote, I developed compassion, patience, and an unyielding ability to persevere. These are my gifts of autism. I want to hear about yours. And that's a direct quote from Jason. So Jason, I can't say, oh, we got you back again. We have you.
Yep, and we're trying to figure out how to meet you on our end because now I'm getting an echo.
Oh, no.
Bottom one, and I think we're all set now.
Okay. It's the gremlins in the studio, but we persevere. This is what we do. Something pops and we figure our way around. So again, we want to say that there's $20,000 worth of scholarships that you're in the process of giving away right now, but the deadline has already come for people to submit for this year, correct?
Yep, that is correct. And
okay.
Our top winner is going to be winning a $10,000 scholarship. So we have a $10,000 scholarship, one $5,000 scholarship, and then five $1,000 scholarships, and I'm personally funding all of them. So the goal is in future years that I'm able to take these videos, continue to personally fund additional scholarships, and hope that maybe some of our viewers and those that begin to learn about the organization are able to make some donations to help us grow this.
And so again, they need to do a videotape and they can send it to you. That we've got a website here, siblingsofautism.org is where you want to go, and you can find more information there, but there is a specific place where you submit your video to apply for a scholarship. The deadline has been met for this year, but can they submit now for next year, or does it open up later on in the year?
So the way the website's formatted is technically we can continue to receive them.
Okay.
And we're absolutely happy to receive them and consider them for future years. So I would say yes, they can continue to submit for next year. We'll continue to upload them to our YouTube channel. Those that are interested in viewing the current ones that have been submitted can go to Siblings of Autism. They can search the channel on YouTube, and they can begin to go through them. We're going to be announcing the winners pretty soon, and we're going to make sure that we post them on our Facebook, our social media, and on our website.
Well, it's an amazing thing when you think about how, and I know this is something that you've thought about a great deal, how financially draining it can be for a family when one or more children is on the autism spectrum. It's hard to save for college as it is. It's hard to put anyone through college. And when you're dealing with all of those things, it would be easy for a neurotypical sibling to get shortchanged and for there just not to be enough money when it comes time to do something for them. So I love the fact that they can use this for education. It could be for summer camp. It could be for college. It could also for vocational training. Just absolutely amazing. And this is all of the money for this is coming directly from you, Jason?
Yes, that's correct.
Well, if people wanted to donate to add to it, do you have a way to do that yet?
Yep, we have a donate tab listed on our website at siblingsofautism.org. They can get in contact with us through the website as well. They can also reach us through info@siblingsofautism.org if they're looking to get involved, to help out with fundraising efforts. There's many different ways that they can get involved. They can also make a donation directly to the Autism Society of America since we are working in partnership with them.
Well, Jason, I've always been impressed by you and thought that you were just a really upstanding young gentleman. I'm more impressed now than I ever was. I am so heartily sorry that you're going through this health-wise, but I'm glad to know that you're doing okay and that the treatment is working out for you. And we're all going to keep you in our thoughts and our prayers for you to finish up with this. I know you said that you're in remission right now, and we're gonna pray for you to be all clear from here on.
Absolutely, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, and please give our love to your entire family and tell them how impressed we are with how you guys are doing. We want to remind everybody, go to siblingsofautism.org to find out more. Jason, where can they go to follow Jason Cherry Racing?
Yep, they can follow us on through our website, jasoncherryracing.com. They can also access some additional information on Facebook, simply searching Jason Cherry. It'll pull up the athlete page. Siblings of Autism is also on Facebook. They can simply search Siblings of Autism and it'll pull up the organization as well.
Okay, you're awesome. What a guy. We just would like to clone you. We just need more of people like you in the world. You're remarkable.
They exist. They absolutely exist, and that's something that I've been very fortunate and blessed to be able to see these video submissions coming through. There's many others out there like me.
Wow.
And I look forward to giving them the opportunity to be able to do what I've been able to do and hopefully connect them on a national level.
Well, I hope for that too. And we wish you the best of luck in all things, including your racing.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll talk to you again soon.
All right, bye now.
All right, bye-bye. What an amazing young man. And willing, I had no idea when we started this interview. Apparently, because we had asked to interview him earlier and there was some scheduling difficulties, and I did not know it was because of chemotherapy. But what a trooper to be with us today and to work through some of the technical issues that we were having. So don't forget, siblingsofautism.org. Check it out, and check out Jason Cherry Racing. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we have Mike Weiner, who's going to be with us from City National Bank. Stick with us.
I'm very excited to be here at Denim & Diamonds. This is a fantastic night, supported by so many incredible people, and to see the kind of change and the kind of help that's being given.
It's kind of like going to the Oscars, and it's just been growing ever since, and we're overwhelmed at the support from the community.
I first want to thank everybody for coming out and really helping this Denims and Diamonds fundraiser, because autism has affected so many people, and the work that they've been doing is just off the charts and just wonderful.
As a mom, I'm grateful that I was managed to get the intervention for my daughter when she was young. So it's important to see that all kids can get the same type of intervention.
You with the side eyes, don't be discouraged, oh I realize it's hard to take courage.
We're just thrilled to be able to raise funds for things that are so vital, you know, like safety equipment, helmets, or fences so the kids don't run away, or iPads so they can learn to communicate.
There's still so much more to do, and we're here to lend our little hand and make this thing a global thing.
And welcome everybody to our 5K, 10K run and family festival.
for Military Families Run and Festival is a race that benefits military children with autism. So we help a lot of the families around the country whose parents serve in the military.
I'm an autism mom, but also a military wife, and I'm so excited to be here at ACT Today's 6th annual run. I've never missed one. It's something that really helps this situation. Is fabulous because there's no other organization like it.
San Diego has some of the highest concentration of military in the country, if not the world, and a lot of my friends are military and are affected by autism disorder. And so for me to do some little thing to the people that protect our freedoms is important.
It's hard enough to parent a kiddo with autism. Can you imagine parenting a child when you move on average every 2 years, you have a parent member deployed or in training? Our kids don't like change. These kids are subject to constant change.
My name's Tom Leahy. I am president of One Hope Wine. We are the title sponsor of the 6th annual ACT Today Family Festival. We have been the title sponsor every single year, which we're very proud of. We've worked with ACT Today for 9 years, which we are also very proud of.
My name is Megan Martin. I'm a licensed and certified genetic counselor at Lineagen, and we provide genetic testing. Lineagen are strong supporters of all families with autism, but particularly families in the military.
Double stroller, so he should get double the amount of applause.
Hey, my name is Yard Connor. I am in the United States Navy stationed here at Navy Information Operations Command, San Diego. I am a first-class petty officer and been here for 3 years so far. This event is important to me. Growing up in a family, my baby sister has Down syndrome. And just living through that and being 17 years older than she is, understand the importance of family, understand the importance of how everybody is important to what we do here, not only in our country, but what we do throughout the world.
Here are the 10 cases. Here are the top female. Here we go. First place with a time of 42. Arciga, Bueno. Good job. And third place, Alex Rodriguez.
Go to acttoday4militaryfamilies.org and help our military families impacted by autism.
5K, red bibs are the 10K. Here comes some more finishers.
Welcome back to Autism Live and to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. As I mentioned, Nancy isn't here with us today. I hope she's watching us because we've been saying nice things about her behind her back. I also promised you Mike Weiner was going to be here, and we had a last-minute change. We're all a little disappointed that you didn't get to meet Mike because I know Dr. Grandpichet said such wonderful things about him, but he's still wonderful. And in his place and filling his shoes nicely is Jennifer Nickerson, and she is the Community Relations Manager for City National Bank. So thank you for being here and filling in with us. Thrilled to have you here. Let's start by talking about what City National Bank is, because I know as an autism mom, I'm thrilled because I was saying earlier that we like to support businesses that get it and give it, and that's what City National Bank does. But tell folks at home, if they've never heard about City National Bank, what it is.
Well, City National Bank is a private and business bank located here in Los Angeles. We are affiliated with Royal Bank of Canada for about a year now. We merged with them about a year ago. But we are basically a local community bank supporting our community here in the greater Los Angeles area, up through the Bay Area, in a couple other states, and just helping people achieve their goals. And we consider ourselves the bank to help people on their way up.
We love that. And you guys have been so supportive with autism as a cause, and with Act Today in particular, and with Denim and Diamonds. You guys are a co-presenting sponsor this year. And that's a thrilling thing. I think that parents need to hear about that because sometimes the world feels like this very out there place that doesn't understand what we're going through. But this is an organization that not only understands but shows up. Why? Why has City National Bank said that autism is something that they want to support, and why in particular? Let's start with that first, and then we'll talk about why in particular Denim and Diamonds.
Well, you know, we're, as I said, essentially a community bank, and when our communities are strong, it helps us be stronger. I can name 4 executives in our bank who have children with autism. So, as you know, it affects a lot of people. It impacts who they are, who they grow up as in their environment and families, and we want to help be part of the solution. And it's our honor to support organizations like Act Today that are doing the hard work on the ground. I'm not going to say it's easy to sit back and write a check, but what you're doing is really where the rubber meets the road, to provide the services, to get kids the help that they need, to put them on equal footing. That's the important work. So it's our honor to support organizations like Act Today that are doing that.
Well, this is why we love City National Bank, because, you know, in this economy, it isn't always easy to get the help and support from businesses, and for businesses to recognize, and you guys have, and you do, and have been so supportive. What is it about Denim and Diamonds? There's something we all think that there's just something special and unique about it. Have you been able to go to Denim and Diamonds before?
Not yet.
Are you coming this year?
I'd like to.
Oh, well, you should come. But why does City National?
I only have denim. I don't have any diamonds.
Well, I gotta say, and more, it's gone more to the diamond things than the denim. There are still a couple of people who show up in denim, but they're sort of the rebels. I don't do the dress up thing well, I have to say. I'm not one of those women that, you know, does the Barbie thing. But it is kind of fun to play dress up for the night and do that with my cubic zirconia instead of my diamonds.
Fair enough.
For me, it's cubic zirconia, not diamonds. But why is this? I'm sure you've heard people at the organization, at the bank, talking about this particular. Why do you think this is an event that they like to sponsor in particular?
Well, I have heard that it's a lot of fun, first of all, which makes all the difference in the world. So to have fun when you're doing something good is always a great time and a great combination. I think that there's the idea of serving kids who are underprivileged, who may not necessarily have the same access to services. As you know, I mentioned earlier, we have some executives who have children with autism. They also have resources that aren't available to everybody. So the idea of being able to go out and help kids who would not have the access to the therapies and treatments that are going to best benefit them, I think that makes people feel special. So to have a good time while you're doing good, that's a great combination.
One of the things that we were talking about earlier is that, you know, it's not unusual to see autism parents show up to an autism event, right? That kind of happens. I'm an autism mom. I didn't pick autism as my charity of preference. It picked me. I don't have a choice. I got thrown into this. But it means so much to us when people and organizations, and I know that you've got some members who have children on the spectrum, but the vast majority of the people at your bank don't. And it means so much to us when other people show up for us. And I personally think that's one of the things about Denim and Diamonds is Hollywood shows up. We have stars who show up, and so many people who make a commitment like City National Bank to say, hey, this evening we set everything else aside, and this is the thing that we're going to talk about, raising money for people who need these supports and services. So we appreciate you so much.
Well, thank you.
And we're so grateful that you guys are such a wonderful sponsor. And I know that all the families watching appreciate it. And I always like to say, you know, you support us, we want to support you back. So for people who are looking for a bank, this is a really reputable bank, and you're going to get great service. Obviously, they care about the community because they're taking part at this level. So thank you for taking the time to come down here. Again, City National Bank. Where can people go for more information about City National Bank?
I would head straight to the website, cnb.com, www.cnb.com.
And that will tell where the branches are. You can take a look. Because ask yourself, is your bank supporting autism? Because, you know, if they're not supporting you, then should you be supporting them? Put your money where people are putting their money back into you, right? Isn't that the thing we should all be doing?
I couldn't have said it better.
All right. And then you'll have to give our love to Mike and let him know that Dr. Grandpichet says good things about him behind his back. And
everybody does.
And he'll have to watch all the things that she said, because she said really wonderful, nice things about him.
He's a good guy.
But thank you for being here and filling in. All right, we are going to take a break, and then we're going to come back to get to the news that I didn't get to at the start of the show. Stick with us. Hi, I'm Shannon Penrod, and we're at the ABCs and XYZs of Special Needs Conference. And this year, for the first time, they've got something really remarkable. It's the Entrepreneurial Boutique. These are all items that have been made and are being sold by individuals who have special needs. So we're going to do a little shopping and talk to some of these fabulous entrepreneurs. Come on.
My name is Molly Rarick, and I'm founder of Breed's Gift. We're a nonprofit that serves teens and adults with special needs, like Chase here. We were founded in 2013 and serve people in the Conejo Valley, Santa Barbara, and LA.
Our main objective is to give our participants the skills they need to gain a more independent life.
My name is Shelley Cox, and Lisa Zalagi and I are founders of Creative Steps and Create Micro-Business Enterprises. And the items that we're selling here today are all made by the clients who have passions about what they want to make, and then they get the profits from what they make after we've paid all of the other expenses.
We are here today because my goal is to be independent, and also I would like to share all my artwork, and I would like to sell.
Thinking about at his young age being a businessman, you know, it's amazing. I cannot be more proud.
Hi, I'm Shannon Penrod from Autism Live.
And I'm Nancy Oswald Jackson from Act Today.
And together we co-host Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy.
And I'd like to thank Emily Goodwin for challenging us to the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge.
Yes, we're thrilled to be able to show how the autism community supports the ALS community.
So we're going to ask some autism activists to take the challenge on as well. Dr. Doreen Grandpichet, the founder of CARD and Act Today.
Matt Asner from Autism Speaks.
Lisa Ackerman from TACA.
Holly Robinson-Peete from the Holly Rod Foundation.
Ariva Martin from the Special Needs Network.
Scott Badish from the Autism Society of America.
Alex Plank from Ron Planet, and activist Jesse Saperstein.
And finally, Dr. Temple Grandin. You've been challenged!
Thank God we live in South Carolina.
What is autism? What is autism?
What is autism?
What is autism?
What is autism?
What is autism?
I've been asking myself that for a very, very long time.
Let me think about that one.
Trying to just
Jeez. Let me think. Oh man, that's a rough one. Yes.
Autism.
Autism is a neurological disorder that affects many of our kids in different ways.
It's a learning disability that affects the cognitive functions of the brain.
A lot of people have the misconception that it's a disability, and it's really not.
I look at it as like a special gift.
When one person thinks differently from another.
It's an opportunity for everyone to learn to understand someone that's a little different than them.
Autism is the ability to educate.
They're given so much talent in different areas.
To me, autism means a chance to be with and be around people you really care about. Autism is beautiful.
It's a way of seeing the world differently.
It's always unique, totally intelligent, and sometimes mysterious.
Happiness that comes out of my son's hard work.
It's a movement.
Unpredictable.
Abstract.
Awesome. Love. The field I want to work in.
Laughter, fun, joy. Autism is beautiful to me.
I want you to remember these 3 words. There is hope.
Welcome back to Autism Live, to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy, with just Shannon, no Nancy today. But I have to be honest, Nancy was willing and said that she would soldier on and come here, and I said, please don't. Please stay home, take care of yourself, because sometimes we all need to be reminded of that, right? She does that for me. Earlier in the year when I had pneumonia, she was like, no, you're staying in bed, you're not allowed to come here. So I pretty much said that to her. She does not have pneumonia, but it's a devastating cold that's going around. Really quickly, I got 3 news stories that I want to get to before the end of the hour. First one, a new study that is out, published in Evolution Medicine and Public Health, earlier this week. You can find the article about it on ScienceDaily.com. It's more evidence that shows that parents who are older when they give birth to a child are more likely to have a child who is on the autism spectrum. We kind of knew that. A study came out over 10 years ago out of Israel that began to point fingers towards age being related to prevalence of autism. But there are more and more studies, this being one of them. What this also showed, though, which is good news, is that later reproduction does not have any association with a risk for schizophrenia in offspring. So that's good to know, because I know that a lot of people have been concerned about that. If you want to read more about this study, you can do that in ScienceDaily.com today. Then another good news story, at least it's ending up good. There was a young man who went missing, a 10-year-old boy who was on the autism spectrum, that in Wisconsin was missing this weekend, and he was found. We'd like to let everybody know that he is safe, and that in particular, one of the things that's really compelling about this story is that the police used some very specific tactics and very mindfully went searching for this young man, knowing that he was on the autism spectrum. They used a drone. It was in a marshy area where he was found, but they immediately went and searched water areas, which is what we know that our first responders need to do. And they not only searched them with eyes on people, but they also used a drone to be able to see to the bottom of water. And this is a fairly new technology, but they looked to make sure. They also used a forward-looking infrared or FLIR camera, which is a device that allows people to see heat signatures in pitch black. So they were able to do that from above and on the ground. The police also warned the hundreds of volunteers who showed up to help search for him not to run up to the boy, since doing so might scare him. They even called in the Southwestern Wisconsin Incident Management Team to coordinate volunteers with directions. Mike Hipple, I hope you're listening to that. I hope that you were aware of what was going on. Firefighters put lights that they thought might calm the boy down on a truck ladder, and they also used Barney music at his parents' recommendation, because that's what's reinforcing him for him. But eventually it was 2 students who got lucky and found the boy in a marshy area about a mile from the cornfield which he disappeared into, which was near his home. Okay, and then and we're thrilled for the family that he was found safely. And our last story today, oh my gosh, this one pulls at the heartstrings. A dad left a heartfelt Facebook message after he saw, you know, it's beginning of the school year and kids fill out those forms where they say, my favorite thing is this, my favorite thing is that. And so Bob Cornelius took a picture of what his son Christopher wrote, and you can see that he says, my favorite food is pizza, so on and so forth. And some of my friends are no one. Devastating, right? Dad was absolutely devastated by it. He took a picture, he posted it on Facebook, and he wrote that his son was on the spectrum, and he said his classmates are delayed as well, but most not as much as Christopher. They are figuring out how to interact socially every day, and because Christopher cannot engage them in a typical way, he gets left behind and excluded in his dad's eyes. And he said, until Thursday, I didn't know how aware he was of this divide. That sometimes we think, well, maybe they don't notice, but clearly they showed it. And he said, he wasn't aware of how aware that his son was of this divide, as he does not often talk about his peers. I should not have been surprised, as he makes his wants, but not his emotional needs, very clear. But I was. Mostly, I suppose, because I had never seen him put it down on paper. But for the first time, it was staring me in the face. Well, the letter went viral, and his inboxes were overflowing with people offering to send Christopher letters, gifts, and other proofs of friendship. Many people have picked up the story. It's been covered everywhere by news coverage, and people are sending him letters. If you would like to send a letter, you can go onto Facebook and you can see that there's an address. We're not going to give that out here, but it's on Facebook. The boy's name is Christopher Cornelius, and you can find that on Facebook if you are interested in sending letters to him. I'm sure that that would help the family to feel better and for the boy to feel better. We are officially out of time, or we're getting there. I want to take just a second to talk about our show tomorrow, because we've got a bang-up show for you. We're going to be starting out the hour, of course, we'll start out with our jargon, but our very first guest is going to be a fabulous young woman who works at CARD and is in charge of recruitment for new hires. And there's a lot of hiring that's being done as CARD expands. And so she's going to be here talking about what CARD is doing to bring on more people in various different roles, who they're looking for, because I'm guessing that some of you could use a job. Or you know someone who could use a job, or you know someone who is looking for a situation that maybe they're looking for a part-time situation. So Nicole Brown is going to be with us tomorrow to talk about that. And then, as promised earlier in the show, we are going to have Bonnie Yates with us. She is a special education attorney, and she is going to be answering some questions that you guys have sent in. We're inviting all of you. This is going to be a regular segment that we're going to be featuring on the show with Bonnie, and other lawyers in her law firm are going to be answering questions that you guys send in. So send in your questions, and each week we'll pick one or two questions to be featured on the show. For those of you who don't know, Bonnie Yates, as I said, she's a special education attorney, but she's also an autism mom. And we have featured her son here on the show, Nick Yates. And he's the young man that, if you watch The A Word, visits the family with The A Word to talk about what it's like to be an adult on the spectrum. Nick and Bonnie are both featured in the DVD Recovered, which focuses on 4 different children who were treated at CARD. It shows videotape of them when they were very young. You would recognize Nick in some of the clips that we show here on the show. Nick was the child that didn't start ABA until significantly later. He was 4.5 when he started ABA, and did ABA up until the time that he was 14 or 15. You can check out a video that we did with Nick where we went to In-N-Out, he and I in the car. It's called The Road to Recovery. But Bonnie will be here. She's an amazing mom, as you can imagine, and a special education attorney who has helped me on many more occasions than I would like to talk about. Because when you're consulting with a special education attorney, that means things aren't going the way you wanted them to go, right? But sometimes we need to do that. And she was extremely helpful in very different circumstances helping us. So she's going to help us once again. All right, so that's tomorrow. We'll look forward to seeing you back then. Until then, please give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now.